Mike, did you, Father Michael, did you your microphone? No, just making sure.
Hello. Hello, welcome. You can hear? Father will be here shortly. You're muted if you're trying to talk. You're muted, you're muted. Harry, how are you doing?
How are you, Father?
Thank
Full day
you.
today.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, right? It was nice and beautiful this morning, and then
I went to the city, had some of my shots taken. Shingles and some of the other ones. I'm sore as can be. Tetanus shot.
wait, do you have those regularly?
Every 10 years.
10 years, okay.
At a certain age, you got a ways to go, Father.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I never got a shingle shot. If I had chickenpox, does that mean I don't need that though?
You had chickenpox. It's a different condition.
Yeah. I'm going to get something. I forgot the.
Yeah, so Harry. Good. Hey, Dad.
He's muted. I don't know if he knows that.
Dad, can you unmute? We can't hear you. Yes.
Perfect.
So we just had a delicious Lenten meal after pre-sanctified. Briam.
Brian.
Oh, it was like melted in your mouth. And you know, when you fast all day and you don't eat anything tastes good.
The bread was delicious.
It was just.
Did what taste good?
That's the question. Should it taste good?
It was, we should have had, you know what we should have had? We should have had burnt toast to keep with the Lenten spirit.
Toast sandwich.
2 pieces of burnt toast put together with air in between. Are we good?
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow, do you want to say what's going on tomorrow?
Yeah, so tomorrow we have, what do we have tomorrow?
The family night?
We have family worship, 6:30. We're going to do the compline, and then we're going to have the making of the palm crosses for Palm Sunday. And then the altar boys are coming in around 4, and we're going to have them clean the altar. Yeah. Kind of all of us. No one, just, yeah. But you know, we're going to ask you if we want to have an end of year Bible study book club event. And if you could organize that again. That was like really good. So my mom and dad have joined us. And was this a new computer?
This is it.
Oh my Lord, that's great. So you guys, these are our new friends of the church. Tom, the iconographer, is working on it over there. So Mom, this is, just so you can see, Mom, we dedicated this icon for you. This is Saint Calliope right there. So it's Saint Theodore, Saint Calliope, Saints Constantine and Helen, Saint Magdalene, and Saint Paisios. And then over here is Saint, that's the iconographer, Tom. And his wife, Sophia, is related to Dad. Do you remember the Hannahs who had the Black Angus? Dad, do you remember the Black Angus? The steakhouse in Oakland, the Hannahs had, do you remember that? I don't know if he's hearing me. So this is Saint Anna, and then Saint Emilia, Saint Christina, Saint Pascavi, and Saint Ephthalia. And we're going to make room for one more saint. So, what's that?
Me?
No,
Melanie?
Emilia, the mother of Saint Basil.
Emilia.
Emilia.
In English, Amelia, I think.
Do you have, Dad? Do you remember the Han? Do you remember the Hannahs? They had the Black Angus Steakhouse. Oh, so Sophia, the wife of the Argonauts, was related to them. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So just a couple notes, Father Michael. I'm very sad.
Okay, Father. What's wrong?
This is our last day of reading St. Basil's.
That's true.
And so it's, I guess all good things must come to an end at some point.
How have the past 5 weeks been, though, of reading St. Basil?
It's been fantastic. And I've been using a lot of his teachings in confessions and guidance to other people. So that's been really great. And so briefly, Holy Week is approaching. We have our last pre-sanctified of Lent on Friday. And then Holy Week begins with Saturday of Lazarus, this Saturday, and then Palm Sunday. And then we have the bridegroom services of Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Then we have the pre-sanctifieds in the morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then we have the Holy Unction service. And traditional, though it's kind of been redacted out of the services in America because of the Black Holy Week book doesn't have it in there, is the service of the washing of the feet, the orthros of the washing of the feet. Then Thursday morning is the celebration of the mystical supper, right? And then the crucifixion. On Thursday night, we're going to have His Eminence Archbishop Papidoforos with us for the crucifixion. We're going to have His Grace Bishop. We're going to have His Grace Bishop Demetrius Mokisos of the St. Photia Shrine for us on Saturday of Lazarus and for the Holy Unction service.
The afternoon one. Right?
Yeah. And then we have the Royal Hours on Friday, the taking down of the cross, and then the Engomia Friday night. And that brings us kind of into Easter. So we're excited about that.
Oh, that's exciting week.
Yeah, it is. So this is our last dialogue, right? And what did you think of all the topics we talked about so far?
I thought they were phenomenal.
Can you give a recap of it?
So we had give heed to thyself, which was my personal favorite. I mean, that's kind of the core of all of it. Give heed to thyself. Then we went on to anger, which spoke of the how when you're angry, the spirit flees, and you morph your face, and it messes with you. And peace actually can bring peace to another angry person. Then we talk about envy, against envy, which is longing for, what somebody else has or does. And then we went to humility.
Yeah, humility.
Humility. Last week was detachment. And detachment, other than give heed to thyself, I think last week was my favorite, just on detachment.
Yeah.
Just the rich imagery and just something that the world doesn't talk about much, because all of these things, perhaps the world has some kind of sense of. We started it with mindfulness, give heed to thyself. The second one, everybody knows that anger can corrupt your soul and give a bad, or about you and really just destroy you and eat away at the spirit within you. Everybody knows envy is bad. Everybody knows that humility is good, but detachment was kind of a distinctly Christian or Orthodox idea. And now we have mercy
and justice, yeah. And and so starting this off, I read the first line and I just found it was like really, I guess, timing wise, in light of the, the big trial that everyone was following with the death of George Floyd and the conviction of the police officer, what's his first name?
Chauvin.
Chauvin's the last name. So we heard St. Basil open this beautiful topic on mercy and justice by saying, because the world is forgetting God, my brethren, injustice to neighbor, and inhumanity to the weak prevail, confirming the words of the holy apostle, as they like not to have God in their knowledge, God deliver them up to a reprobate sense, to do those things which are not convenient. And I kind of really felt that, wow, I mean, I was like, because of the circumstances, this trial, had so much national attention. And, and so what is mercy and justice to you, Father Michael? How do you understand mercy and justice?
I didn't want to go first, Father. Mercy and justice. I do believe that there is a sense of justice, which is the doing as is right, as is according to God, and not be, following the ways of the wicked. And then mercy, you kind of juxtapose them a couple times. Mercy is the distribution of love and compassion with the gifts that we have. For those on the live stream and those in person, our Zoom just kind of fizzled out for a second.
So how come that happened?
This has happened. It happened a couple times this morning. So.
Okay.
So what do you take of mercy and justice?
Yeah, it's kind of the same. I kind of had a figure that the act of the sense of doing things in a there's a word axioprepia in a right way, in a correct manner, not breaking laws, not going against God's commandments, even though some things are legal and lawful, but not necessarily just or right. We have the legalization of marijuana now, right? In New York and in many states. We have, they just kind of also kind of decriminalized prostitution.
Did they?
To a great extent. And yeah, from like 1970. Yeah.
In New York?
Yeah. And so even though these things maybe are not lawful, it's not something from a priest point of view that we're going to encourage people to participate. That's not necessarily right to do so, or good to do so. And then, of course, mercy is the works. The sense of showing kindness to someone, whatever that kindness might be. Yes, Glorian. Don't forget the people can't hear you on here. They're supposed to. You can't practice one without the other, and I think that was something that was in the writings today. Yeah. So, and St. Basil deals with that in this, and we're going to go over some of that things today on that. So that's a good point. Going back to the trial, and I was, with these three other officers that were watching this thing go by, and there's kind of a sense there's a police code, just like I think there's a priest code too, right? Like priests, we're going to look out for each other,
for one another,
right?
Yeah.
And yet, there was an oath that these police officers, swore to protect, the vulnerable and to serve, and so they're watching one of their colleagues do this, violent act that, unfortunately led to this person's death, and then led to this man losing his freedom now, and in a sense, not stepping in to
Stop.
To stop or to say, enough is enough, and
Did St. Basil have anything to say on that?
so I thought that, it talks about, and well, that's where the first line about justice is struck a chord, because it says, because the world is forgetting God, my brethren, injustice to a neighbor and inhumanity to the weak prevail, confirming the words of the holy apostles. And who are the weak in our world? Are those addicted to drugs? Are they weak? Are those that have maybe from a worldly perspective, maybe their IQ isn't that high, and they can only function at a certain level.
Those impoverished.
Those in poverty, so it's this is where we need to give our attention to. I thought. Did you? Was there anything in the? Yeah, we keep losing you guys. We apologize.
Are you playing hide and seek?
This is the price you pay for not coming in person.
Ellen and Harry, not Mr. and Mrs. Lardis.
Oh, they're frozen now too. Thought I learned. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is that these sinners God is calling back to his service, and he is instructing them to refrain from vice and be diligent in showing compassion towards their neighbor. As the prophet Isaiah taught, speaking to God, stated, cease to do perversely, learn to do well. So, in some of these instances where we might catch ourselves maybe not being as just as we should, or not being as merciful as we should, there's, the great prophet says, just, okay, stop the bad part and pursue the good part. And, sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things when it can be
Stop the bad part, do the good part.
real simple, right? What book was used a lot in talking about the juxtaposition of mercy and justice? What book did
Isaiah and Malachi.
and what else that
Proverbs. Proverbs.
tremendous amount of quotes from Proverbs, right?
Yeah.
Has anyone read the book of Proverbs? Glorine, have you read the book of Proverbs? Glorine, have you read the book of Proverbs? George and George. Gabriel, have you read the book? Sophia? Candy? No. Presbytera? Is that? Have we read them together? We have? We have. Harry, have you ever read the book of Proverbs?
Not recently, no.
Elena?
I actually just read it during my Lent.
Oh, nice. And Mom and Dad, have you read the book of Proverbs? You have homework to do. So, what were some of the things that you picked up from what St. Basil learned from, or was kind of using the book of Proverbs to kind of teach between justice and mercy? That you.
I don't remember to teach between them, but one of the things he said is let your the works of your justice, the works of your righteousness, and doing the right thing, you'll reap benefits from that. Mm-hmm. Just like if somebody works hard and is disciplined and it has integrity, they reap benefits. Those first rewards, though, should be used for mercy, to be distributed, right? The first fruits.
Yeah, one of the first things he says was honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits of all your increase. So our first gift should always be to God, the best of what we have. This is the story of Cain and Abel. It was, I think, Jacob. Was it Jacob or who invented the tithe? Was it Jacob?
The tithe?
The tithe.
Abraham. Still Melchizedek told.
A tithe, which was 10%.
Tithe literally means 10%.
10%.
Hebrew 1/10.
Okay. One thing I thought was interesting, that if you gain money in an unlawful or unjust way, and you try to give that to God, it means absolutely nothing. It's like you're better not to have given it. And
you can't pay your way into heaven, especially with corrupt money. But that I think was worth repeating because there was a long tradition in the Roman Catholic Church, right, with the mafia and certain unrighteous kings and so forth and benefactors. That's a long tradition. Then there's indulgences it got even into in the Middle Ages. It got where people could pay their way into certain things, and it was a very accepted thing. But St. Basil's very clear there. And what are you supposed to do with unjust wages or reward?
Well, I think who was the best example of that? That when he gained
Zacchaeus.
Yeah. Do you want to tell the story?
So Zacchaeus is the chief tax collector in the city of Jericho, which, by the way, Jericho is the oldest inhabited city in the world. And so Zacchaeus.
We went there.
Yes. Yeah,
we climbed the tree that he was in.
Did you climb the tree?
Yeah.
I thought you're not allowed to climb the tree.
Well, the actual tree is in the.
I thought it's enclosed.
But there's a branch that comes out from it.
Father John broke the rules. So Zacchaeus is the chief tax collector, but the Lord meets him. He climbs this tree because he's kind of ashamed and he's sure he can't see him in the midst of a crowd, but he climbs a tree, and that shows a lot of humility and a lot of desire to see him. And the Lord stops him immediately and looks up, and he knows who it is, and he says, Zacchaeus, calls him by his name, make haste and come down, for I must be at your house tonight. And he dines with him, and Zacchaeus has a confession and a utmost repentance and says, behold, Lord, half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have taken anything from anyone wrongfully, I restore it fourfold. So he makes retribution for his mistakes. He makes retribution. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
He makes a retribution for the evil that he did, any injustice that he did. He goes back to that person, and he doesn't trumpet and give like a big donation to somebody else and gets a bunch of glory. He makes it right with the people who he wronged. And
that was actually the law, right? If you defrauded anyone, you were supposed to restore fourfold. And then going back with that.
Was that the right example?
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah.
I was like, oh no, which example is he looking for?
We're in gear right now.
Simpatico.
And the other interesting part is that also, if you bring your gift to the temple and you have something against someone else, put the gift down, go reconcile yourself, then come and offer your gifts. And then going back to Proverbs, it's talking about an offering God from the wicked. It says the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. Okay, so even you might be giving something great and big, but if it's from a wicked source, you're causing yourself more harm than you are good.
It's a good question.
Then you've done your job.
The question was, if you try to reconcile, but the other person won't receive it and it's cut you off.
Yeah. And would you say too, like if you've done your job, that in God sees from your heart that you're doing what is right?
It depends on the individual situation, because I think that there's ways that you can be sensitive to that, and you don't have to pester them, but you can always pray for them, and you can continue to pray for them and actually soften their heart. And I think the Lord makes certain things right that we can't necessarily make right on our own.
And maybe by showing patience and perseverance, going along with what Father Michael says, we can help that cause for both of us.
For reconciliation.
For both people. And then so let's say you do just things, but you're not kind to the poor. Whoever shuts his ears to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be heard. These are from Proverbs. So again, we can be right, we can do good things, but if we're not kind to the poor, we'll go unheard. Keep mercy and justice and draw near to God always. That's from Hosea. So mercy and justice they go together. You can't separate one from the other. Spending in mercy what you possess with justice, as it is written. Spending. So it was interesting. St. Peter, did you catch the part we talked about taking an inventory of yourself?
Here?
Yeah.
No.
In
Examine himself at some point it said that.
So that's probably did you read it from the website?
No, same translation I used. I thought it was the inventory, isn't it?
At one point it said to do an inventory of yourself. So what in the practice of mercy and justice, what should we inventory? What should we look into ourselves? What should we give heed to in allowing mercy and justice to become be brought in the forefront versus being hidden maybe by other things?
I'm not sure, Father. The first fruits, the fruits that He's given us, the gifts we have.
Okay, so taking this, what are we doing with our first gifts, right? So that's a good thing. Yes, Sophia. Okay, so a very great point. If we want to be forgiven, we have to forgive other people, right? And so, if we're looking to be unkind or unjust to a person because maybe for whatever reason we think they deserve it, but we're not looking into our own sins, then that helps us that keeps us from being just and merciful to another. What are some other things that
It's breaking up a little bit, Kim.
could be because of the weather and stuff like that too. I wonder if that. So the what's that? And going along with that, there was a beautiful quote in here, and I don't know if you caught it. You probably did.
Taking inventory.
So there was the question was asked. Can God take care of the poor? Right? Why doesn't God take care of these situations? Right? Right? Yeah. And so why is it put into our hands? And it's for us to be able to practice good. So we have this beautiful quote: "He has not left us the poor to feed because he is unable to do this." He fed the Jews in the desert for 40 years with manna, right? Mm-hmm. And quails, right? But he asks from us for our own good, the fruit of justice and mercy. Mercy does not spring from injustice, nor blessings from curse, nor benefits from tears. So the sense that the poor that are put in front of us, yeah, God can take, but He wants us to take, so we can benefit, so we can become more rich. What was that quote from last week on detachment about the belly of the poor?
Oh, yes. We unload our cargo on a sinking ship.
And we think we're losing, right?
We think we're losing, but instead we're storing it in safer vessels, the bellies of the poor.
The belly, yeah.
That was beautiful.
That was an incredible.
And this I like to this line too. God did not leave us the poor because He cannot take care of them. That was not the reason. Could you give a definition of justice? Glorine is pointing out how justice, we need to be careful because sometimes justice is seen as vengeance, in a spirit of anger rather than righteousness. We can get emotional. So could you clarify a better definition?
Why don't you do it? Why you put me on the spot, man?
After he put me on the spot like 3 times.
So, so I think this is something that, trying to define what is just. So, again, it's different from what's legal. And because, again, there's certain things that are legal, like abortion is legal, right? Smoking marijuana is legal. Being able to write off a certain amount of taxes for your own benefit is legal, right? But it might not be just. It's not just, right? So I think that's one thing we have to put into perspective. It was funny that you asked that, because our friend Jim Marousas, who cannot make it tonight, he was, I sense, okay, so what is justice? That's what it is only a virtue with prudence, and it is not mercy. Justice is giving someone their due, no more, no less. It can run amok and be used for evil if not tempered with sober heart and a keen sense of context and propriety. Legal and just are not the same thing. American slavery was legal, but it wasn't just.
Equivalent retribution.
Neither a pound of flesh more or less shall you take.
You talking about the Merchant of Venice?
Merchant of Venice. Is that the Merchant of Venice?
Yeah.
Remember?
So the dikaios and dikaiosini, this alignment with the will of God, is a very interesting concept, because we have justice, and it's a corrupted and morphed concept that is usually seen as vengeance. I will rain justice. Anytime you say that, that is not coming from a sober heart, as in a tranquil heart. What I think needs to be seen is what God wills for us. How does God want me to act in this situation? What would Jesus do? That's like a funny statement. But how would God like for me to be in this moment? And that is a seeking of justice. So if you see somebody committing a heinous act, as Father John was referring to before, if you see somebody committing a heinous act and really, doing destruction, whether it's Chauvin or whether it's, in business, whether it's in a social setting, we step in and we can maybe engage to bring peace, and that's justice in that situation. So, and that has no sense of equal retribution. It's not necessarily a weighing of scales. I think it's more, what does God desire in this situation? So it's not equality or meeting equilibrium. It's rather doing right by God.
And I think a beautiful story that it kind of captures that, I just thought about this now, is the story of the adulterous woman that is brought to the feet of Jesus, right? Jesus is sitting, as we read in the Gospel of John, and he's like sitting in the dirt, and he's writing, it says, right? And then the leadership, the Pharisees, older and young, bring this woman who was caught in adultery, and they bring her purposely to test the Lord, because if the Lord is such a great rabbi, what's he going to say? She should be stoned to death. And so that was the justice for this woman, to be stoned to death. So Christ says, and this goes back to what you were saying, Sophia, if, yes, she should die, she should be stoned to death, but if you don't, but who does not have any sin, let them cast the stone. So then they all look into themselves and they realize I can't really justly see this through. So they all leave, and it says the elderly first, and then the younger, and then it's just him and her. And what could Christ have done, Father Michael?
He could have stoned her, I
He
guess.
could have thrown the stone, right? Because he was without sin. He could, and it's his law that he wrote, right? He wrote that law. He told that law, right? He's the Word of God, right? But he says, where have all your accusers gone? They go, they've all gone. He goes, it's just you and I. He goes, neither will I accuse you. Go and sin no more. So that what could have been reckoned with justice was met with incredible amount of mercy, right? And so this this beautiful story. Talking about mercy, mercy in this letter has to do a lot with what that you kind
Generosity.
of generosity,
Charity.
right? And do you have to be rich to be a generous person? Do you have to be rich to be someone who can practice generosity?
No, I think St. Basil has something to say about that. You do not need to be.
Yeah, and what did he quote from the Lord? You remember what he quoted?
I don't think he quoted the widow mite, did he?
No, he quoted the giving of a cup of water.
Yeah, that's right, to where the apostles.
Even if you give me a cup of water, it's a blessing. And we've talked about this, I think, in the other, I think on detachment, and I think on envy. Anyone, just like anyone can go, what was the opposite of envy? In the
Of envy?
in the letter that we
Thankfulness?
thankfulness and something else.
Content.
Gratitude. We can all anyone in any position, rich or poor, can pursue virtue, right? And so that's there's no prejudice to virtue. There's no social class to virtue. Anyone can be virtuous. I remember there was a Greek mythology, and I could never remember it, or the full story. But so there's the story of I think Hermes is sent by Zeus to find kind people on the earth, right? And they come across he comes across a poor couple in the. It's kind of almost like an Elisha story with the widow.
The widow
with the bread and
jars.
the jars of olive of flour and oil multiplying, and so they show this hospitality, and and as a result, as they were aging, they were embracing each other, and Zeus turned them into like a tree where they were entangled for the rest of eternity as this beautiful tree on the mountaintop or something like that. But it talked about the poverty of this family, of this couple, and the great hospitality they showed to in this situation.
It's funny, I actually spoke of Hermes today in Bible study.
Oh, did you?
One of the chances. Shod your feet with the gospel of peace. It just came up.
Why do we always we think alike sometimes?
That is strange.
It's a little strange. So, but in being merciful, in being giving, in being, how should this be done? Sophia, how should it be done? Yeah, in secrecy, right? If we're looking, and why is it encouraged for us not to seek the uplifting of others? So our motivations are not questioned, right? If God is the only witness to our mercy, there's no other need for any other witness. So take heed that you do not do your charitable deeds before men or seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward from your Father in heaven. And so I thought that was a beautiful little part to that. Yeah, I don't know. For whatever reason, our Wi-Fi keeps on going in and out, so it's a technical problem over here. Our apologies.
Father, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Since we're talking about this case, we're talking about mercy. And I'm not the only one thinking this, but it's just, we're in an environment here, there's just a lot of hatred, revenge, retribution, nothing nice here. I mean, is it conceivable that mercy can be shown by somebody at some point with all this ugliness going on? Because you do read about some horrific events, killings like the Amish school, the kindergarten school, and they forgave the shooter. They went to his funeral, the family of those that were whose children were gunned down. So, from a Christian perspective, is it conceivable? Can mercy be shown by, let's say, Floyd's family, or I don't know, Chauvin, somehow, in a biblical sense, the Christ coming in, and somehow there's something good that could come out of this, which is 100% ugly, any way you look at it from everybody's perspective.
Yeah, at any perspective, at any time, if mercy was shown, we wouldn't be in this situation, and there's no doubt about it. I think Al Sharpton said something kind of nice today. He goes, no one's happy about, no one's rejoicing, no one's celebrating what took place. A man's going to jail, and a man's dead, and this is the perspective of how these things should take place. And I think to that point, Harry, like you're saying, if we're not careful, we could lose the rewards of justice or mercy if we don't maintain a humble spirit and a sense of service and care for the poor and for the most vulnerable. But the church, the gospel is to care for the vulnerable and to care for the poor. And unfortunately, I think what has happened in our society is, because of media, because of so many different things, because of rhetoric and so much and so forth, people that are vulnerable or have become marginalized and are looked upon as an enemy, or looked up. It's almost like this. For me to be victorious, I have to destroy you type of mentality. And I think that somewhere along the line there's missing a lot of mercy and justice.
We spoke about it in the anger talk, on anger, or on those prone to anger, that those who are anger breeds more anger, and it becomes a vicious cycle. The only thing which can stop that is peace. Peace and love. And that you remember, he speaks about that. Father John gave that story, like, if you're like having, if you're having like a shouting match, the first person, St. John of the Ladder says this, the first person to accept defeat in an argument is the one who demonstrates humility, and that's the only way that it can be diffused. But we chase after victory, I think, now. And I don't think that necessarily, Harry, is really talking about justice now. I think what you're referring to is sometimes just anger. Anger and like vengeance, vindictiveness, which is a vice, and it has to get stopped in its tracks. But I think that's separate from the fact of the injustice that occurred.
So I think because we're closing in on 9 o'clock. I wanted to. I thought there was something really interesting towards the end again on mercy, and it caught my eye that Saint Basil wrote, and it's almost like an oxymoron, right?
What's that?
This last line, he goes, the neediness of the disciples, of the apostles. So the disciples were sent by Jesus without anything in their pocket, right? With one cloak, with sandals. They were told, don't take anything, right? And so they needed to be taken care of, right? So the rich, so whoever helped to take care of them, okay, seeing their poverty according to the ways of the world, really became the source of the richness for the rich person. The poverty of the disciples became the source of the richness for the rich person. And so I think this is again something that and I don't think the answer is necessarily a certain political or social or economic system. I don't know. I don't know if capitalism takes care of this, or socialism, or communism, or any type of ism. I'm never comfortable with isms.
Ferris Bueller says.
Does he really?
So he starts it's right at the beginning. He's showering, and he says, "I really hate isms. All isms."
This really, I do too. I don't think isms. Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller, in the beginning of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Really not a fan of any ism. I don't like it.
I'm gonna go watch that movie now. So, how we handle wealth is it's really important. It's important for the person who is bestowed with it, kind of as a gift from God, to see how you will use that gift, and how the person receiving it, and so actually when it's almost the exact opposite. The person who might have the wealth is kind of impoverished until he's able to let go of the wealth, and then he becomes rich. We are in, I think, a society that, I mean, since the Industrial Revolution, where you had like the Rockefellers and the Rockwells and all these mega, the Carnegies and the Fricks and the Mellons, all good Pittsburgh people, right?
Rockefeller wasn't.
Not Rockefeller, but the rest of them. Westinghouse. So they were, with the technological boom, right, of Facebook and Twitter and all those things, there's just this massive amount of money. And I was talking to a friend, and they were talking about how there was someone made a bid on the first tweet that was ever made.
Yeah, NFT.
And
To own the rights to Jack Dorsey's tweet.
yeah, and it was sold for some ridiculous amount of money. And one of the persons who was commenting on this, who's in finance and himself in hedge fund, it goes to show you there's just way too much money out there, and they don't know what to do with it, and so during the times of like Basil, like Saint Basil, his family was tremendously wealthy, and they got rid of everything, and they used their homes for the monasteries, they used their homes for the hospitals, they used their homes for the hostels, and they truly shared it, so no one was without need.
Yeah, could I just clarify? They didn't get rid of everything. They shared it. You remember how Jim pointed out last week? They were intelligent, and they distributed it, they gave it, they put it to use in better hands, in better, safer vessels.
Yeah.
We don't get and they were detached from it. They were able to store it better with the poor in their war.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I'm going to end with this one quote here. Is there anything else you want to comment on? Is there anything else we're missing or anything that we're...
No, but I did want to point out just the Matthew 25, just his judgment. Remember, his judgment came down to what? I was hungry and you gave me food. I was naked and you clothed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was sick and you tended to me. All of these things, that's what the Lord is going to put you on his right hand for.
But along with that, there was one other special aspect of that.
Tell me.
They didn't even know they were doing it.
Oh yeah, and they said, when did we
do this? Their humility was so humble that they didn't even think that they were being humble and kind and good. Mm-hmm. Versus someone who might want to show it off and say, oh, I'm good and kind. Look, and totally different reason for maybe why that charity is going on. So, go ahead.
So people who have will say that they worked hard to get what they have, that they studied hard, that they, and as a result of that is why they have it, and they have it for their own family, to take care of their family for generations to come, for example. Mm-hmm. What can you say to that? Or what would St. Basil do?
Well, I think it would be, I think the real root is where did their ability for that to happen come from? How would, their mind that was able to study, or their or their ability to make a business, it was a gift given. It wasn't even something that they really, our ego wants to say, I did it. Our ego wants to say, I did it. But
yeah, this concept of self-made man, it's no good. We utilize the gifts that God gives us, we transform them and multiply them, but they're all gifts that God gave us. It's like if somebody gave you $10 to take care of, and you managed to trade and make 11, you would say, well, here's your dollars back. They're all your gifts. My brain, as Father John said, my upbringing, my wealth, my
curly hair.
My curly hair and blue eyes. These are all the things that the Lord has bestowed on us, not that we have earned for ourselves or anyway.
Ending, I want to end with this quote. It goes back, I kind of referred to it already, but let me read it in. Ready kindness shown to the saints is piety towards Christ. So us taking care of the saints is piety towards Christ. And he who ministers zealously to the poor man becomes a comrade of Christ, not only if he be rich and shares great possessions, but even if he offers to the needy the little that he has, although it be a merely cup of cold water, which gives a disciple to drink in the name of a disciple. And so I think that's that's towards the end, towards the end. And he's referring to Matthew 10:42 about the cup of cold water. So Father Michael, give me your thoughts about this dialogue that we had. This is the first time you've done this, right?
Yes, it is. I've loved it, Father. Well, we did do the Sedek, yeah, but that was different. Oh. Remember? But I liked it. I think we'll hear feedback, I guess, about the format. But I loved these readings. I have to say, these readings were just wonderful. From St. Basil, constantly giving beautiful images and bringing in. You see how rich the Scripture is in there, and how contemporary it is, appropriate for us today.
Yeah. I likewise would just reiterate, a lot of people who lately have been coming for confession or just coming to talk to the office, I've been referring more and more to these teachings because, St. Basil has a title of being also doctor, the doctor. And it's truly because his theology, his interpretations, his understanding is really, I think, true medicine for our souls. And anyone from, and Mom and Dad, did you want to say anything?
Well, one thing we're discussing tonight is a certain perspective that you just kind of let things go. You're not trying to overtake somebody. You're not trying to be mean to someone. You're just happy to be alive and to be sharing your life with someone. And we're blessed with children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Our life is so good to us. Really. Thank you, son.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Harry, did you want to say anything?
I can't say anything better than that. That is wonderful. That's fantastic. Father, I want to thank you for coming into our class. I just wanted to add that. That was excellent with the young adults. I just wanted to point that out. I was thinking about that all week.
You talked about Father Michael this past Sunday, right?
Yes, he came to the class and we had a very, I think it was a very powerful class.
Yeah.
Things came out during the half hour or so that Father spoke.
It was funny because I did the one the week before with the little kids, and it was almost like going back to the early church where everyone started confessing in open because these kids were just shouting it all out. I was like, shh, be quiet, don't say anything more. George.
Yeah, I think back to the epistle when they're saying, "Where is your gold and silver now?" And the reason I mentioned that, years ago, I was driving down the road in Florida, and around the bend came a funeral procession. And as the hearse passed by me, I did my cross, and then one by one, the cars were coming around the bend, the whole line of cars. And as I'm approaching the bend, the last vehicle to come around the bend was a Briggs truck. And I just started laughing. I said, this person's taking it with them. It's probably just a coincidence. Set up.
He's taking it with him.
That's pretty good.
We come into this world with nothing, and we certainly go out with nothing.
George.
But, there's a line in Zechariah, and I think it's you can look at it like they're talking about Rome, and leaving them to their neighbors, leaving in the hands of the neighbors and the king. Sounds like a real bad situation. If you look at it but if you look at it, who's our king? And if our king is Jesus, Jesus is our king, and we make him our Lord right now today, and we follow his commandments, then I think we could be okay if left in the hands of our neighbors and our king, because we would have the commandments. And we would have the grace to follow those commandments and the wherewithal and the grace to see and the beauty in his commandments. And so, but the secret is to do what he asks us to do, and that way, that way we can. That's the only way that we can. That's the only way that I can justify being. That's the only thing that's making sense. But I just wanted to say that, Father.
Okay.
To be left in the hands of my neighbor and my king is okay if I do the commandments of my king, and my king is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Father.
Very nice, George. And Elena, anything?
Would you like to wrap up with anything, Father?
I think that's it. May Kalo Pascha, may we have a beautiful, beautiful Holy Week. And please be with us as much as you can. And we look forward to celebrating the resurrection. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Lawrence, I want to ask you, do you remember the Pirates, right? It just occurred to me. Do you remember 1970? I think it was 1969.
Don't, because you're going to cut them
Pirates
off.
on their pitching staff, they had 3 last names
strange direction. Can you believe that?